back to another video. We have put the rocker arms on. We've got the valve adjustment and everything done on the last video. On this one, we are going to finish up with the intake. Valve covers I may or may not show. I mean, everyone knows how to put on a valve cover, right? We'll get started on the intake side though, and we'll see how far we get on the bottom side of the engine. So where we're at right now, the intake is on the engine right now, yes. But what I did was I put the intake gaskets onto the heads with a little bit of silicone between the gasket and the head surface, and I actually just rested the intake on it so that that silicone in the corners can dry up. Now the reason I did that is so that way I can cut away any material, especially the water jackets. I'll show you that when I take the intake off. Actually, you know what? Here. Let's see if I can pop that off with one hand there. So you can see how there's gasket that's interfering with those water jackets, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to trim those out. I won't do the back ones because there's no crossover on the back of this intake, but I'll do the front ones. I'll carve those out so that way there's no flow restrictions there. And I'll just double check all the intake ports as well, just to make sure that there's no restrictions on any of them, but I think they look pretty good. But I will double check that to make sure. But yeah, that's the reason I did that anyways. That way it's just easier to carve it out, and I'm not tracing and then putting it back on the bench and cutting. This way I can just cut right on here, making sure not to get any debris or anything into the engine. And yeah, should make for a nice clean install with no flow restrictions there. All right, so I'm just gonna take just a regular utility knife, whatever, and I'm gonna basically just carve the edges, and I'm just gonna make sure that there's no flow restrictions. Stick a rag in the intake port there, and then, I mean, there's like nothing there, but whatever. Feel like I'll sleep better at night like this, you know? I'll just carefully move that off, dust it off. There we go. And I'll do this, I'll just continue on, I'll do that to all the runners. I'll just make sure that they are all cleared up. All right, so I got the trimming done. One thing to note, I guess I didn't do it with this one on camera, but put rags down here, eh? Like make sure you don't get any of that debris in here. Like you just spend all that time cleaning and making sure everything is good. So make sure it's good, you know, don't contaminate it. And I carved just a little bit out of there, and I saw where it went in here. Cleaned that out, but for the rest of them, I laid some paper towel down here, some shop towel, some rags, something, just to close it off, okay? And then I went ahead and got them all, and you'll see I just kind of was able to clip them a little bit on the tops. Nothing crazy, but now I know for sure the way these things will be installed, there is no interference, because when you put your intake on and everything's fresh and wet, your gaskets can slide around a little bit while you still get your holes lined up, okay? So now all of a sudden you have gaskets protruding into your intake runners, and now you got problems. Now you got some flow restrictions. You know, you might knock 5, 10, 15 CFM of air off your intake flow. You never know, right? So just an extra precaution. So the other bank is done as well. This one, the gasket did actually slide down a little bit more on me than this side did. So I actually did cut a little bit more off the tops on this bank. So, but all worked out. Next step, you want to make sure that you brake clean, put some brake clean on a clean rag, and then wipe these down, your end rails. And then the next thing you want to do is take your gaskets for the end rail that comes supplied with it, and then you want to make sure that you put a little bit of silicone on either side when you put them on. And I'll show that to you here now. I'm just kidding. You really think I'm going to use this? That's for the birds, man. We're going to put a bead of silicone along the rail here on each end. We're going to wait just a little bit, basically long enough to wipe down the gasket side of the intake. We're going to wipe that down with brake clean as well. I already did wash it, so I'm just going to do one more wipe on the gasket sides. And by the time I'm done that, this is ready to go, and I will place the intake down. Okay, so I did something that I don't normally do, and I don't like doing. And I did it for two reasons. Okay, first I'll show you what I did. So you'll see I did smear a very thin layer of silicone around the gasket, around the intake ports. Did the thinnest layer I could, just basically painting a little bit on, just a thin layer. And the reasons I did that, one, AFR's instructions recommend to do that. I didn't do it on the head side, I'm just doing it on the intake side. And the only reason I'm doing it on the intake side is because there is a little bit of minor pitting on the intake itself. Okay, it's time to go on. Let's see how centered I can get this. Okay. It's looking pretty good. Now, when you slide your intake on, you want to look down into your runners. Oops. You want to look down into your runners. Oh man, is my light going to work? And you're looking to see how well the ports match up. Okay, if I look in this one, I can still see some of the gasket on that edge. And I flip over and I don't see the head on that side, which tells me this thing needs to go forward, even though I look down the holes and the holes line up nice. So we are going to shimmy that guy forward. You see that? How we just closed up that gap? It's not focusing, I'm sorry guys. There, see that? Now we got a nice transition going into there. And we'll just double check them all. Only got a tiny bit exposed, I'll slide it back a bit. So I'm just looking at that balance, okay? So on the phone, it actually, some of these lips look a little bit bigger than they are. Yeah, I'm having trouble getting it to focus. Like there, you can see it's kind of shiny. It makes it look like it's got a big lip. But that's actually just the edge of the head that's kind of sparkling. It's actually lined up really nice. So on that side, I get a little bit of gasket showing. I'll pull it back just a bit. So basically, I'm just kind of finding the balance where it looks like the ports are lined up best I can on all of them all together, kind of looking at them all. So I'll just double check that and I'll start getting bolts in. Okay, so I got the bolts all in. I got them started. What I did is, because they are like a stainless steel type bolt, I did put a little thread sealant on the threads themselves. Just a very little bit, like you don't need much guys, just a little bit. And I got them all in there, I got them hand tight. So now when I'm gonna wrench them down, I'm gonna do them a little bit at a time, and I'm just gonna go across and back and forth, starting in the center, working your way out. And I think the actual torque spec is like 25 foot-pounds or something. We'll see how it feels when I'm doing it with this. And you just want to go back and forth a little bit because of the V shape of the intake and the heads. If you go all the way along one side first, man, you're asking for trouble. You're going to sink the one side down, the other side is going to come up. So you just want to balance it out. All right. You saw me get the intake down, all snugged up. We are good to go on that side. Next up I'm going to do here is the valve covers. We got some Ford Racing tall valve covers here we're going to throw on there. Looks like they could maybe use a bit of a polish, but I'll get them on there for now. Nothing special there, guys. I got new gaskets going on. Just gonna hit brake clean on a rag again and wipe the mating surfaces and put them on. These will have lots of clearance. They're really tall, so I'm not worried about that. So, I mean, I'm not gonna show you guys how to do that. I'll just put them on and show it to you after. Okay, so I got the valve covers on. Went on easy, as always. Just make sure your surfaces are clean. Make them hand tight, maybe a little bit past that. Work them around a few times because, you know, when you snug one down, you hit all the rest. The one that you started with usually ends up being looser. You just kind of keep hitting them a little bit over and over, and you're good. So here's a view as it sits right now. So it's looking good. It's coming together nice. Gonna make sure you cover up your intake on the top. You don't want anything falling in there now. You can see the silicone coming out of the edge there, nice on those on the valley rails. Backside, I did wipe this one a little bit, but all sealed up. Yeah, looking good, guys. Okay, all that's left is going through the oil pump and putting the oil pump on, and then doing the oil pan and the rear main seal. So we'll get all that done on the next video. So yeah, I guess we'll keep this one short. Yeah, we'll call it there. Thanks a lot for checking it out.